Hello and welcome to the Atoll, your home for Waterworld fandom. In today's video, I'd like to do something a little different and look out across the endless seas of the internet to explore a few other Waterworld fan projects that I've discovered in my years drifting upon this digital expanse. And if this video gets a good reception, I'd love to turn it into an ongoing series, but for this first excursion, I have a list of 6 items. So without further ado, let's load up some supplies and raise our sails in search of what our fellow drifters have cobbled together. Starting with number 1. At the top of this list, I'd like to discuss a few really handsomely crafted miniature models that I've come across over the years. Let's first take a look at the Hellfire gunner boat from Australian model builder Steve of Anzac Plastic. I first became aware of Steve's project when he reached out to me, wondering if I had any production stills of the Hellfire gunner boat in my collection that he could use as reference material. This led me to discovering his blog that chronicled the process of creating the miniature over multiple years. Steve began by seeking out a miniature 1968 Peterbilt needle-nose semi-truck, the same truck that was actually used on the Hellfire gunner boat in the film, and ultimately settled on this 1/32nd die-cast truck, which was a later needle-nose model but still fit the bill. The Quad 50 cal gun turret was sourced from this 135th Vietnam gun truck kit, and the barge itself was built from scratch. In the back of the barge is what Steve aptly points out is a water tank with tires lashed to it that creates a giant paddle wheel that propels the barge forward. He built this section from a plastic cylinder and used builder's fill to cast around the entire object and added miniature tires that he also casted himself. He used gears and belts from an RC car to create the mechanism that, in theory, would take power off of the rear drive of the truck and direct it to the barge's giant paddle wheel in the back. After the general shape of the barge took form, Steve began to add smaller details, even casting his own elongated pelican cases to sit on the flatbed of the truck. Steve painted the entire piece in gray primer and then made it grungy with various painted rust techniques. The baseboard was textured with an approach involving glue and toilet paper, and then painted and covered with multiple layers of clear coat finish to create the water surrounding the barge. He then added the final bits of detail to bring it all together. I mean, just look at the beautiful work on the tiny chains lashing the tires to the rear drum, and all of these fine details like the cooler, the bottles of hydro, the spent gun shells, and the emblazoned words Exxon Valdez, paying homage to the Hellfire's own mothership. Absolutely exquisite work here. And when Steve posted the finished project to Facebook and Reddit, he received a great amount of praise for his work, and even received congratulations from people that worked on the film and at the Universal Studios stunt show, a testament to just how magnificently accurate the miniature is to the actual set piece in the film. Thank you to Steve for letting me cover this project here, and be sure to check out the link in the description to his blog where you can explore his step-by-step process in creating the model and the other creations he's made over the years. Number 2. So let's now move on to 2 more Waterworld models, and I'm actually going to lump the next 2 projects into a single entry on this list. These are the fan redesigns of the Kenner Trimaran vehicle playset. So yeah, I think it goes without saying that the Trimaran is one of the most exciting aspects of the film Waterworld, and the Kenner Trimaran toy is one of, or perhaps undeniably, the best piece of Waterworld merchandise to be released. Ergo, it would only make sense that fans would want to take the toy Trimaran, a magnificent specimen unto itself, and further add and customize to it to make it as close to the film's Trimaran as possible. Let's first take a look at Lester Fink's Trimaran redesign that was posted to aircraftrecourse.com way back in 2009. From what I can tell, this website is an old school online forum for model builders to share their work and get feedback, and is still running in some capacity to this day. But regardless, Lester Fink's post gives a little bit of background about the Trimaran set piece in the film before talking about how they transformed the toy. To make the miniature more movie accurate, Fink started by elongating each of the 3 pontoons by 5 inches, and now that I look at the original toy, it is quite stubby in comparison to the actual boat in the film. For the paint job, Fink went with earth tones, camo green, brown, and tan, with silver accents for the mast and other metal parts of the boat. They then added additional details like this extended bowsprit and additional bow netting, extra mast stays, and these mast spreaders that were fashioned from soldered together nails. The mast itself was remade in wood, and the egg beater trawler blades were cut and extended to be more proportional to the rest of the boat. To top it all off, Fink made custom sails, which in my opinion really brings the whole thing together. The original Kenner toy only has a main sail in this sort of lackluster triangular shape, but Fink's redesign has both main and jib sails, and the main sail really captures the more wing-like shape of the Trimaran's main sail in the film, even complete with miniature battens to help hold its form. Just an impeccable job on this custom model. Thank you, Lester Fink, for your contribution to the Waterworld fandom. Moving on to another Trimaran model based on the Kenner toy, let's have a look at Steve Shillette's redesign from the website The Mariner's Trimaran. This one mostly revolves around a repaint job to bring down the bright unrealistic colors of the toy towards a more realistic tan with dark spots and rust coloring. They've also added more rigging, counterweight bags, finer netting, and added cloth main and jib sails. Perhaps not quite as detailed as Lester Fink's redesign, but still a very nicely augmented version of the famed Kenner toy. However, perhaps more interestingly is that this was part of a very old GeoCity website that was created in July of 2000, just 5 years after the film's release, and the website is completely dedicated to the Trimaran from the film Waterworld, taking excerpts from the Making of Waterworld book to explain the conception and construction of the boat, as well as a few other sections, including this one that chronicles where the boat ended up after the production of the film wrapped. And I just find this little website interesting because it's probably one of the earliest pieces of Waterworld fandom to hit the internet, but as we'll see in our next entry, it is not the only Waterworld fan site out there. Number 3. I'd like to now turn our attention from model building and put the spotlight on a few fan-made websites that I've stumbled upon over the years. Let's begin by taking a look at the most recently created, that being the Waterworld fan wiki hosted on Fandom.com, known as Water's End. This site was created by an Englishman named James who goes by Balthazar Hornigold on Fandom.com as a depository for Waterworld information and lore. James, who has also created fan wikis for other film franchises, was initially inspired by the Atoll YouTube videos, as well as Peter Rader's original script and the Waterworld comics and novelization, and he even reached out to me before creating the wiki to get my opinion on the name, Water's End, which of course is a great reference to Rader's original script. And James has written many pages exploring the universe of Waterworld through his own research and research cobbled together here on the Atoll videos, and he's even graciously linked to many of the Atoll videos on relevant pages of the Waterworld fan wiki. However, James's work is not complete. Though he has filled out many articles on all corners of the Waterworld universe, he still has some holes to fill. And since it's a wiki, all are invited to add and edit to this ever-growing fan project. So if contributing to the fan wiki sounds interesting to you, be sure to check out the link down in the description below. Moving on to another Waterworld fan website, I'd like to shout out waterworldmovie.com, the quote unofficial fan website created in 2014. This website is the brainchild of friend of the channel Lane W, who I've been conversing with even before I started creating videos here on YouTube, and has helped out with the research on a bunch of the deep dives. The website itself has some really cool sections like this FAQ section that explains everything from how Waterworld was not a financial flop like many believe to what the world would look like if all of Earth's ice were to melt. The site even has a section dedicated to Waterworld memes. Waterworldmovie.com is another excellent example of some of the earlier days of Waterworld fandom on the internet, and the site is still being updated to this day. And thank you again, Lane, for linking off to some of the Atoll videos from your website. Just a note here before we continue on with the rest of the items on my list, I had planned to talk more about other fan-created websites from the early days of the internet here, but as I was doing this research, I ended up falling deep into a rabbit hole with some pretty spectacular discoveries at the bottom. So hopefully shortly after this video goes up, I'll follow it up with another video that chronicles that whole exploration. So just be sure to subscribe and keep an eye out for that next video because I think it's going to be a pretty wild ride. But anyways, on with the rest of this video. Number 4. At this point, I'd like to pivot from some fan-created websites to some fan-created audio by shouting out again my friends Rick and Julia from the Mad Max Minute podcast. Now, in my last video, Rick and Julia joined me to play and review the Waterworld board game, and at the end, I talked a bit about their podcast and their exploration of Waterworld 2 minutes at a time. But what I did not mention, and what I was waiting to talk about in this video, is the radio drama called Water Zen that they did as a finale to their nearly year-and-a-half weekly episodes dissecting the film Waterworld. As Rick put it himself,
3-episode mini-series that we call Water's End because it is based on the original pre-shooting script that Peter Rader wrote before they handed it off to David Twohy and Joss Whedon got his hands on it, all that stuff. And so over the course of, I'd say 2.5 hours, you get a radio play of what Waterworld could have been before Hollywood got its hands on it.
But let's now have a quick preview of Water's End so that you can get a taste of this high-quality production that is complete with sound effects and professional voice talent.
The command hovercraft eases up to the dock. 2 thugs jump to secure the stern and bow lines. The large vertical hinged door swings open with a thud. A figure emerges. Huge, 6'8" at least. Hip-length hair, yellow, not blonde, balloon yellow. He has a solid gold triangle attached to his forehead, and his cape is a dense mesh of bird feathers. Meet Laszlo, Lord of the Pirates. A young man rushes up to meet him. He's Helmet, also unique in appearance. One of his eyes is blue, the other is green.
They must have hidden her.
Don't worry.
Meanwhile, in the barrel, Enola is panting, out of breath. The bird coos nervously and flaps its wings. She looks at the oxygen canister. Insert the gauge. Is nearing the red danger zone.
So, if you've ever been curious about the original Raider script of Waterworld, I would highly recommend seeking out episodes 86 through 88 of the Mad Max Minute Presents Waterworld H2O Minutes at a Time, which covers the entire reading of the script that can be found at madmaxminute.com or wherever you stream your podcasts. Number 5. Let's now shift our ears from dramatic readings of Waterworld to some music inspired by Waterworld by listening to Tom Crusher's remix of the Waterworld soundtrack. Crusher is a Hungarian music producer based in London who has worked with some of the biggest names in trance music under the project Flash Tech, and later as Tom Crusher with more of a focus on electronic dance music. Recently, Tom has gone more underground using the name Crusher, or all caps CRSHR, to release electronic music with its own sound. And yeah, this remix of Waterworld takes from the world of EDM and mashes it up with James Newton Howard's iconic Waterworld score, completely retextualizing the source material into an energizing, beat-driven bliss. But just have a listen for yourself. Crusher was inspired by the story and atmosphere of Waterworld to create the remix, which takes a sped up version of the track Swimming and incorporates samples from other tracks in the score along with that driving EDM beat. Thank you to Tom Crusher for letting me spotlight this project, and be sure to check out his YouTube channel and SoundCloud. Links in the description below. Number 6. And now the moment that I've been anticipating the past few months. Let's have a look at McCall45's freeware PC game known as Kevin Costner's Waterworld. For those of you that don't know, McCall is an Australian Twitch streamer that plays primarily old, forgotten, and rare video games from older consoles, PCs, arcade machines, and my personal favorite, handheld consoles. A truly inspired variety of gaming experiences that, at many times, feels like an archaeological dig into gaming's most obscure and uncharted antiquities. And earlier this year, McCall did a multi-stream Waterworld marathon, playing every released Waterworld game plus the unreleased Sega Genesis game, and during the marathon discovered the greater Waterworld fandom, including the Atoll YouTube channel, and of course rediscovered the Waterworld arcade meme from Season 8 of The Simpsons television show. In the clip from the show, the character Milhouse inserts 40 quarters into an arcade cabinet called Kevin Costner's Waterworld, only to get a game over after moving the Mariner one step. A delightful satire on the much talked about over-budget production of the film that came out only a year prior to the Simpsons episode that aired the gag. But for McCall, this was a moment of inspiration.
I was always like, what comes after that? Like, it looks like such a good game. Imagine when you get to the next screen and then maybe there's a dude to fight and you have to punch some dude. You know, part of me has always wanted to make a fully working version of the Waterworld arcade machine from The Simpsons. I'm half tempted to do it. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we just need to make it a reality. I'm sick of it not being a reality. Maybe we need to make the Waterworld Simpsons game real. I can do it. I can make games.
And McCall was not trolling. Over the subsequent months, he would work tirelessly at creating a full imagining of the fake Waterworld arcade game as seen in The Simpsons, working primarily in secret but occasionally letting his audience see glimpses of the work in progress, which was being painstakingly crafted to pay homage to The Simpsons source material, but was obviously expanding greatly into its own fully recognized experience. And finally, on October 8, 2022, McCall released Kevin Costner's Waterworld to the internet and threw a release party on his Twitch stream. And lucky for me, I even got an early release of the game to play around with myself. And oh man, let me just say, I had the biggest smile on my face playing through this game. When you first start the game, you are welcomed with this fully laid out home menu, complete with a how to play screen and author's notes, and a huge thanks to McCall for this little shout out here at the bottom. So, I suppose just a spoiler alert here, as I'll be showing a good chunk of the game here in the video, but regardless, when starting the game, we get an incredibly accurate reworking of the arcade game as seen in The Simpsons TV show, and of course, are asked to insert 40 quarters. And once we've paid up, we are given control of the Mariner and take our first step on our journey, which, as you might expect, gives you an immediate game over, please insert 40 quarters. The screen tilts back down to the coin slot, but this time, instead of inserting one coin at a time, we can shove handfuls of quarters into the slot, greatly speeding up the process and alleviating some of the tedium of inserting each coin individually. And again, we take control of the Mariner, but this time we are free to move, including jumping and crouching, and lo and behold, we can leave the game's first screen. On the second screen, we encounter our first enemy and learn that the start button allows us to punch. With a sort of match the pattern, rhythm style gameplay, we can dodge the smoker's attack while landing some punches ourselves, which will eventually defeat the assailant and allow us to progress to the next screen. On the next screen, we learn that the left button allows us to inspect our environment, and doing this over the barrel gives us a bag of dirt, which, after defeating a few more smokers, we can trade at the Atoll trading post for our beloved tomato plant. And just check out this shifty-eyed Helen that stares at us as we move about the screen. The next screen has us dodging falling wrenches. Obviously someone on a catwalk above us must think we're not welcome here, but continuing on, we meet our first mini-boss, a throwdown with the Nord himself. And after vanquishing the Nord, we then, to my great surprise and delight, leave the Atoll and take to the endless seas, piloting the Trimaran around some tricky rock outcroppings. And after some spirited sailing, the mariner takes a moment to rest, but to our great horror, is confronted by a rogue whalefin. After some dodges and punches, the whalefin retreats back to the depths with a whimper. Yeah, just listen to this sound effect. At this point in our journey, we arrive at the smoker's lair, known as the D's, where we do battle with more smokers whose attack patterns have become quicker and more aggressive. But that becomes no worry to us as we quickly acquire the very rewarding shotgun. And hey look, there's Gregor's dirigible. I wonder if that will come into play at any point. In the next screen, we get the full satisfaction of our shotgun as we level 3 smokers with absolutely no resistance, but then we're challenged again by a new enemy type, the shirtless smoker Bomber Bowler, who comes back again in a few screens with his off-time pitches that really messed with my head. But finally, we make our way to the Bridge of the D's, blowing our way through this door and arriving at this wonderfully rendered depiction of the Deacon's stateroom, complete with pixel art versions of Smeat cans, the political map, the golf course painting, and, of course, the seahorse sculpture. On the next screen, we are treated again to some very nice little Waterworld references, with this portrait of Old St. Joe himself and the Deacon Mobile, which must be demolished in a sort of Street Fighter car smash stage in order to progress to the next screen. And in the next screen, we finally come face to face with the Deacon himself, who is sitting casually in a chair as if he was waiting for us. And I have to admit, at this point, I was playing the game under non-optimized conditions with an older MacBook running a PC virtual machine that was creating frame dropping issues and input lag, so unfortunately after spending several thousands of dollars and hours trying to beat the Deacon, I had to give up. But this is probably all for the better, as I was able to watch some really talented gamers play through the rest of the game. Here I've taken some footage from friend of the channel Sneed Plays, so be sure to check out their playthroughs, link in the description. And yeah, after defeating the Deacon, who by the way shoots lasers from his one good eye, we jump on the dirigible and eventually arrive at dry land. And what comes next takes a completely left turn that you'll never see coming, so I'll leave that for you to discover. But yeah, after completing the game, you are treated to a delightful credit scene which reveals the hidden items that you will probably have missed the first playthrough and gives you a Mariner rank at the very end. And once you get back to the home menu, a new hint screen will have been opened which will aid you in finding all of the hidden treasures within the game. So that is truly what is great about McCall's Waterworld game, is that it encourages replay and further exploration which will reward players with new secrets, a better Mariner rank, some moments of literal meta-narrative, and the game's true ending, which I dare not reveal. You will have to seek that out for yourself. But regardless, a huge congratulations to McCall for sticking to his vision and committing to finishing the development of his game. To play the game is a truly charming and rewarding experience that shows loads of creativity and craft on every single screen. And on a personal note, over the past few months, it's been a pleasure watching McCall's live streams and getting to better know this fellow content creator and Waterworld fan. links to the game and McCall's Twitch channel in the description below. So yeah, there you have it. That is my exploration of some of the Waterworld fan projects that I've encountered over the years. Thank you so much to everyone who helped create this video. Links to all of the projects and individuals in the description below. And having looked and reviewed all of these projects, hopefully you too feel inspired to potentially create your own original fan art. I know that I have, and as we head into 2023, hopefully I can share with you guys something that I've been working on. But also, if you or someone you know has a Waterworld fan project, hit me up in the description of this video or reach out to me on Instagram. I would love to turn this into an ongoing video series. But regardless, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up, say hello in the comments, and if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We are closing in on 2,000 subs, and I'd be very grateful if we crossed this threshold before the end of 2022. Again, thank you so much for all the support. The Atoll also has an Instagram account for even more Waterworld content or as a way to DM me personally. Link in the description. But with that, thanks, as always, for joining me at the Atoll.